If you are waking up at night to pee, even once, and especially if it's happening multiple times, I want you to understand something very clearly right from the start, because this alone could change how you look at your health forever. And that is this: it is almost never your bladder, it is almost never your prostate, and it is almost never just aging, even though that is what you've been told over and over again, because the real issue is far deeper, far more systemic, and far more fixable than most people realize. And if you are watching this right now, you are going to be extremely glad that you did, because once you understand what is actually happening inside your body when you wake up to urinate at night, you'll realize that this isn't just a minor inconvenience. It's a major warning signal that something is interfering with one of the most important biological processes you have, which is your sleep. And poor sleep is not just about feeling tired the next day. It triggers a cascade of damage that affects nearly every system in your body, from your metabolism to your hormones to your brain to your cardiovascular system. And that is why fixing nighttime urination is not about stopping the pee. It's about restoring the internal balance that allows your body to heal itself while you sleep, because when sleep is disrupted, cortisol goes up, insulin sensitivity goes down, fat storage increases, especially visceral fat around your organs, your blood pressure rises, your arteries stiffen, inflammation increases, hunger hormones become dysregulated, cravings intensify, especially for sugar and starch, and your brain loses its ability to properly detoxify, which is why you wake up with brain fog, poor focus, memory issues, irritability, anxiety, and even symptoms of depression. And over time, this can lead to low testosterone, reduced muscle mass, slower recovery, chronic fatigue, and a dramatically increased risk of type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and cardiovascular disease. And yet, despite all of this, millions of people simply accept waking up at night as normal, when in reality, there are entire populations around the world where people routinely sleep through the night well into their 80s and 90s without waking up once to urinate, which tells us something incredibly important. And that is that aging itself is not the cause, lifestyle and metabolic disruption are. And in countries like the United States, where 1 in 5 men and 1 in 4 women wake up at least once or twice every single night to urinate, the problem is not age, it's the environment, the diet, the stress, the blood sugar, and the hormonal imbalances that have become normalized. And the key hormone involved in this process, one that almost no one ever talks about, is called antidiuretic hormone, or a DH, and its job is exactly what the name implies. It prevents excessive urination, especially at night, by signaling the kidneys to conserve water while you sleep. And when this hormone is working properly, your kidneys can filter an enormous amount of fluid during the day, nearly 170 liters, yet only release about 1.5 to 2 liters as urine. But when a DH is disrupted, the kidneys stop responding appropriately, urine production increases, and the result is waking up repeatedly to urinate. And one of the fastest ways to disrupt this hormone is an imbalance between sodium and potassium, which is incredibly common, especially in people who eat processed foods, snack frequently, or consume large amounts of carbohydrates and sugar, because excess sodium without enough potassium forces the kidneys to dump water to maintain balance. And potassium is absolutely critical here, which is why foods like avocados, leafy greens, and large salads play such a powerful role in restoring normal fluid regulation. And another major factor is blood sugar, because when glucose levels rise too high, the body has no choice but to eliminate that excess sugar through the urine, and water follows sugar, meaning the higher your blood sugar, the more fluid you will lose, which is why diabetics and prediabetics often experience frequent nighttime urination. And this is also closely tied to insulin resistance, because when insulin is no longer effective at moving glucose into cells, sugar remains in the bloodstream, dragging water with it through the kidneys. And if you also notice swelling in your legs, ankles, or feet during the day, where pressing into the skin leaves a dent, that is a clear sign of fluid retention. And what happens at night is that when you lie down horizontally, that fluid re-enters the bloodstream and must be processed by the kidneys, leading to increased nighttime urination, which means that if you have fluid retention plus nighttime urination, you should immediately suspect issues with sodium-potassium balance and blood sugar regulation, and on top of that, there are critical nutrients involved in bladder control and nervous system signaling, especially vitamin B1, also known as thiamine, which plays a direct role in the autonomic nervous system that controls bladder function, and magnesium, which is required for B1 to function properly. And if you ever experience the sensation of urgently needing to urinate, but only a small amount comes out, that is often a neurological issue rather than a mechanical one, and addressing B1 and magnesium can make a dramatic difference, especially when taken in therapeutic amounts rather than minimal doses. And then there are substances that directly suppress antidiuretic hormone, and caffeine is one of the biggest offenders, not just coffee but tea and even chocolate, all of which have diuretic effects that push fluid out of the body, especially when consumed in excess or later in the day. And sugar and starch are another massive contributor, because they spike blood sugar, worsen insulin resistance, and increase urinary output, particularly when consumed in the evening. And excess protein is another overlooked trigger, because when protein is metabolized, it produces urea, which the body must excrete through urine, meaning large protein-heavy dinners can directly increase nighttime urination, which is why shifting the majority of protein intake earlier in the day can significantly improve sleep. And then there is the single most disruptive factor of all, alcohol, which powerfully suppresses antidiuretic hormone and virtually guarantees nighttime urination, especially when consumed close to bedtime and even beyond what you drink. Timing matters enormously, because drinking fluids within 3 hours of bedtime dramatically increases the likelihood of waking up to urinate. And many people mistakenly believe that intense thirst in the evening is dehydration, when in reality it is often a survival-driven signal to stockpile fluid before a long overnight fast. And this thirst is often made worse by evening snacking, especially on salty, sugary, or starchy foods, which not only increase thirst but further deplete potassium and worsen insulin resistance, creating the perfect storm for disrupted sleep. And the solution to all of this is not complicated, but it does require consistency, because avoiding alcohol at night alone can make a massive difference. Cutting off fluids 3 hours before bed allows the kidneys time to process excess water. Eliminating nighttime snacking removes one of the biggest drivers of insulin resistance. Increasing potassium intake earlier in the day restores kidney responsiveness to antidiuretic hormone. Reducing caffeine prevents unnecessary fluid loss. Lowering carbohydrates and sugar reduces the need for the body to flush glucose through urine. Moderating protein intake at dinner reduces urea production, and addressing neurological contributors with adequate B1 and magnesium restores proper bladder signaling. And when all of these factors are addressed together, something remarkable happens. People begin sleeping through the night again. Their cortisol levels normalize, their blood sugar stabilizes, cravings decrease, their mood improves, their mental clarity returns, their energy increases, and their overall health begins to shift in a profoundly positive direction. And this is why I want you to apply what you've learned here and then come back and share your experience, because when people see real results, it gives others hope. And before you go, I want you to take advantage of a simple one-page checklist that outlines a daily routine designed to support this entire process, something that took years to refine but is incredibly easy to follow once you have it in front of you. And after that, because insulin resistance is so often at the root of nighttime urination and sleep disruption, I strongly encourage you to watch the next video that breaks down exactly how to correct it, because when you fix insulin resistance, you don't just stop waking up to pee, you restore your body's ability to heal, regulate, and thrive the way it was designed to.